going to begin our program where we are very grateful. We're very grateful to have, I'm just making me nervous of speaking into it. We are very grateful to have our own representatives and the Senate representatives from the state here with us tonight. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes. Good. Okay, so first I'm going to ask them if they would come forward, please. We have Representatives Sam Creekmore and Steve Massengill, if you'll have a seat right here, and Senators Kathy Chism and Neil Whaley, if you'll have a seat right here, over here. And what we're going to do, you're being quiet. Thank you.
Annette, when they speak, let him speak in the microphone so everybody can hear.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. But what we're going to do is we're going to allow them to have a time to share with us what they've been doing the past several, I just say the past few months, but it's been longer than that. But now what they're going to report to us is about what has been happening most recently and what they've come to the conclusions of or have been working toward. So we're going to give them 10 minutes each. I failed to tell y'all this, but you got 10 minutes. We might go over a little bit. Or under, okay. So I don't have to give you a 2-minute warning. I will just let you know when it's 2 minutes. I'm not going to, shoot you or fire you, but I'll just ask you to try to keep it at 10 minutes.
She'll just break your leg.
There you go. But I'll give you a 2-minute warning. So we're going to begin with our representatives and do it alphabetically. Mr. Sam Creekmore, begin first. Please welcome Mr. Sam Creekmore.
Thank you. Thank you. Maybe this works. As y'all know, we're in the first year of a new term, and it's a longer session. It's 4 months, and also during that, there's new appointments for chairmanships, and the speaker on the House side makes those appointments, and I was very blessed and fortunate enough to be appointed chair of Public Health and Human Services. As soon as he said that I was chair, I immediately went into prayer. And so I never heard who else was on the committee, so I had to go look it up later on. But I take this very seriously and very grateful to have this opportunity. And one of the first things I did was look up what all state agencies are under Public Health and Human Services. And I was amazed to see how many there were. There's 7. One, the Department of Human Services, the Department of Mental Health, the Department of Health, obviously, Division of Medicaid, Department of Rehabilitation Services, UMMC, the University Medical Center, and the Department of Child Protection Services, which kind of surprised me. So one of my first orders that I thought we needed to do, because it was a whole new committee, was to have hearings and let everyone kind of get a feel for where we are in the state of each division in Mississippi. So we had 9 joint hearings being with the House and the Senate combined. And we also had some just for the House. So that's a lot. And Steve's on that committee, and I think he got tired of me calling these hearings. But we did have them, and each division came and spoke. And I learned a whole lot about it. And just to kind of give you a feel, as you can tell, it's a big committee, but also it receives a lot of bills. We had 189 bills come through the Department of Health and Human Services Committee. Now, all that takes a long time to decipher what's best for Mississippi. A lot of them are duplicates. And so we took on that task, and I've got some of the notable bills that there are more that we passed, but these I think would make some sense to most of y'all and will make a difference in Mississippi. And the first one, and thank you for having the First Responders Dinner, had to do with first responders. And it was House Bill 317, the Emergency Management Services Memorial. We do not have one in the state of Mississippi. And this is to honor all fallen first responders in the emergency management system. And I know the House has been trying to pass it for a couple of years, and we were able to get that done, and the governor signed. All these bills the governor signed. So we're very proud of that, and it was, I appreciate y'all mentioning that dinner tonight. Everything, well, many times in these hearings, the trauma funding is a problem in the state of Mississippi, whether it's insurance not paying enough for the ambulance services or the state. We used to have a trauma fund that years ago was swept away into the general fund, And we tried to find a solution for that. One, we had to be able to restart the trauma fund, but it did not pass. But we were through House Bill 1796, that would increase the funding by $6 million, which brought the trauma budget to $34 million for the state of Mississippi. It's still not enough, but it will help in our emergency management systems. We'll continue to work on that trauma fund as well. In the legislature, there are things that you can do that can be small things, but can make a big difference to people. And we looked at a lot of old bills, and one of the small things we did that I think will mean a lot to a lot of people was House Bill 315, which uses the word or phrase mentally retarded in there. And we replaced that with intellectual disability. And it had a code section in there that made it open to CONs, which made it very suspect at the beginning. But with both House and Senate worked together, where to get that language changed in the laws of the state of Mississippi. I'm very proud of that. House Bill 346 is the Seizure Safe Schools Act. And as many of you in the medical fields know, there's now sprays that can be used in just a nasal spray in your nose, and that will stop seizures in people, and especially children. And it's a much quicker application. And it seems unusual that we have to pass this through a state law to be able to use this in our schools. But we do, and we already get that. It's a simple thing, task, but it makes a big difference in our children. It gives them a better school experience, knowing that they don't have to suffer through longer seizures. We were able to establish through Senate Bill 2156, the Rare Disease Advisory Council. UMMC does this, but it wasn't official until we did this bill, creating this council. And what this will do, there are 30 million people in the United States that suffer through rare diseases. Half of those are children. And this, we learned after COVID so much, but this will help, especially with insurance, is gather data so that we can better study and hopefully find cures for these diseases. Kind of going with that, we have gene therapy, which is being constantly improved through medicine. And that is where a doctor can go in and adjust DNA and to help cure whatever ails you. But this is typically, if we were able to pass a bill, which again seems silly that something that can be done to make people healthier has to be done through legislation, but it does. And that's for safety issues mostly, but we were to pass this bill so that people, as a last resort, at their own expense, can find a gene therapist who can hopefully modify, find a cure for their DNA so they can continue to live a healthy life. House Bill 1144, this was important to me, is breast cancer. Currently, people who go for a mammogram, which men and women, 20% are called back for one further study, maybe a mistake. A lot of our insurance companies do not cover that callback. And so 1 out of 4 people who are called back don't go. As you all know, if there's something serious there, it's just going to get worse. So in House Bill 1144, we will take that language and make it where the insurance companies will have to cover the second trip back for the mammogram. So with that one, we'll save lives and make for better, healthier Mississippians. The first bill we passed out of the House and out of the Senate was Senate Bill 2140, which is the Prior Authorization Act. This again dealt with insurance companies. And prior authorization has been around since the 1990s, and it's where you have a simple or a medication or a procedure that needs prior approval before you do it, so that the doctor knows he's going to get paid. 94% of prior authorizations today are delayed. Insurance companies will delay it, and there was no timelines. So what we did is we put timelines on the prior authorization. A non-urgent is 7 days. Urgent is 48 hours. Emergency, there is none. You have to prove it right away, which will again make for people being able to get their the procedures done or their medication done much quicker.
2 minutes.
Senate Bill 2157 created the Psychology Compact, which our psychologists in the state of Mississippi can reach out to people outside the state lines and serve them through telemed. Another one that is important to me was House Bill 1143, was advanced metastatic cancer bill. And as y'all know, when you advance cancers, when you're diagnosed and it's in that advanced stage, many insurance companies have steps that you go through, step therapy. And they'll start with the most, probably least effective generic drug. Well, if you've got that advanced cancer, you don't have time to go through all the steps. You need the best care you can get now. And this bill requires the insurance companies take you to that best step for medicine. So this will help give people more hope and save their lives. Senate Bill 2873, in Mississippi, we had no limits to how long you kept records. So hospitals, doctors keep all these records for a lifetime. And so one of the complaints and one of the hearings with hospitals, which are suffering already, have so much storage space of records from going back to the beginning of Mississippi or whenever they started. Currently in the United States, the average is about 6 to 7 years is what the law requires, and the states are required to keep your records. We said, let's go to 10. So we're going to pass that bill and hopefully help our hospitals out. Physical therapy revised law. Typically, you need a doctor's prescription to go see a physical therapist. We removed that step, and so if you're feeling like you got tennis elbow, you can go directly to the physical therapist and receive treatment. We revised the State Board of Health Board just to give it equal representation across the state. A few years ago, or back in the Musgrove, they made some changes, and so we cleaned that up, and we'll have equal representation as of July 1st with staggered terms. And this one was a big one to me, and which fell under the Child Protection Services. But the Qualified Residential Treatment Program, which placed trauma children in special care. These are children that have been abused by a loved one or someone else, and they have family issues. So we had no advanced trauma placement for children in the state of Mississippi. We had the facilities, but we didn't have this federal designation. So we got this bill passed, and so now our children can stay in the state of Mississippi. We've been exporting them to Alabama and Texas at about $30,000 a child. So this one will save us money and keep the children close to their homes. And then lastly for me was the mental health, and that's been a big push for me since I've been in the legislature. We passed 1222 last year, which is monumental and helped keep people out of jail. The next step of that was 1640, which increased more record keeping and also moved now I'm drawing a blank. I just told you about the bill, but the evaluation process to the front. It's currently the third step. If you're being evaluated for mental health, that needs to be your first step. Instead of somebody coming, picking you up, putting you in handcuffs, and taking you to the facility. Let's evaluate that. And the evaluation can be done at your home. So that's
What was that bill number again?
1640. That's a snapshot of what's been going on in public health. As you can tell, it's all over the place. And I think we've got some monumental things for Mississippi in public health. Some other stuff, just some notable projects that we've done. We've got some money from the state coming to Union County, $500,000 to resurface County Road 115, $500,000 to replace the bridge on Murrow Road, and $250,000 for renovations to the Chancery Building. So that's it.
I'm really excited.
Public health yields.
Thank you. I failed to announce that we are going to take some question and answer time, so we'll have questions for you after everyone speaks.
So public health is much more busy than transportation, just so you know. How many bills did you say you had?
186.
186. I did not have that many in transportation. So, yes, this is a new year, you know, so we elected a new speaker. I don't know, he didn't mention who that was. Jason White is our new speaker from hometown in West Mississippi. So he's blessed to name him chairman of public health and me chairman of transportation. So I get to deal with a lot of stuff on roads and bridges, which most people like to have a good road or a bridge to drive on. So lucky enough to deal with the budget on that and all the bills that come to transportation. So I'll just hit on a few of those. Also, I am on management, ag, appropriations, public health, public utilities, and state affairs. So it seems like a lot, and it keeps you pretty busy, especially when you're chairman of a pretty big committee. So it eats up most of your time. But this year, our budget this year for the Department of Transportation, and this sounds like a lot, but as many roads as we have in our state, it's just not enough. But our budget this year was $1,438,802,000. And the state aid budget this year is $220,000. Both of those are up a small amount from last year, from PERS and insurance and those kind of things. So we're looking at other ways to find more dedicated money for transportation. Like last year, we put down an extra $450 million, which got the part that's going to start on 15 in Tippah County. I think in August when it's finally going to get started. You already see all the work that's being done towards Pontotoc on that part of it. All of that was in the last couple of years. So this year we got another $250 million. This part is going to be in Oxford, part of that, and part of it's going to be in DeSoto County on Wyden 55 as you're going into DeSoto. So both of those are big deals. But we have got to come up with some other way just to find money to keep our capacity program going. Just in '87, when they did the '87 Act, we're still at that same level of funding pretty much. So we got to come up with something, and we're working on some ideas. In my committee this year, we had a few bills that come through. House Bill 310. This changes the days that you can get a new tag. It goes from 7 days to 30 days. Most states are already that. And so we're just sort of catching up with everybody else like that. I bought a new vehicle at Christmas, then a snowstorm hit, and I think it was 12 days before I got to Ashland to get my tag, so I was already late. So that sort of helped me motivate on getting that passed, but we do get that done. The House Bill 349, the squatted vehicles, I guess y'all all probably seen the trucks that are set down like this. You know, that's a safety thing that we looked at it. I know a child was killed by one that run over one, so we got that passed this year, and I think that goes into effect in July. So they'll have a little while to get them, leveled out. They can build a small amount, like 4 inches, but after that, they'll get leveled out. So I think that was a good thing on that. We're always naming roads. We named a couple of roads. A couple of people y'all may know, Judge Fred Wicker. We're going to have Highway 15 in Pontotoc be named after him. So in Lafayette County, Johnny Morgan, Highway 7 is going to be named after Johnny. I know all of you know Johnny, or a lot of you do. Then one of Neil's friends of mine, a couple of those, Mr. Eddie Dixon, who was a supervisor, a fine man. He got killed in an accident last year, so going to name a road up on 72 after him. Mr. Charles Thomas over in Holly Springs. Most of you probably knew him too. I had the funeral home over there. Going to name a road after him. So that's just a few things in transportation. I hit on a couple of education things. We did a rewrite this year that did away with MAEP, which I don't know if a lot of you know about that, but I think it's been there 35 years. It was funded twice, so we've done away with that and rewritten the whole formula. Added about $230 million this year. I know all Union, New Albany schools all come out pretty good ahead on that. Pontotoc, Benton, Lafayette. I mean, all the ones in North Mississippi I think came out ahead. So hopefully we'll be able to keep that funded. I know the superintendents I talked to were excited to have that done, and the just keep moving forward on the education stuff. Everything's going really well in our education, and hopefully we can keep the momentum there. Well, I'm not gonna go over, so I'm gonna stop. Sam went over, I'm gonna yield a little of that time back for him. Thank y'all. Yes. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I didn't jump up, it's okay. And I apologize, Steve, we didn't welcome you, so thank you for speaking. Next, we're going to hear from our senators. We have first Ms. Kathy Chism. If you'll welcome her, please.
Thank you, I appreciate that. It's nice to be here. It's good to see a lot of smiling faces. I'll just tell
Turn the
you,
mic around to you.
I can talk a lot louder,
Do that.
with or without it. Can you hear me there? Okay. I don't have a chairmanship because last year I did not campaign politically correct. So I'm just going to tell you about some bills. And we have good bills, we have bad bills, we have bills that I voted for, we have bills that I voted against. You're hearing all positive tonight, and I'm going to give you some positive at the end of my negative. The first bill that I want to talk about is the battery plant that went into Marshall County. That bill, I voted no on it because I feel like that it's corporate welfare. That's just me. I'm a Republican, and I get a lot of Republican education from a lot of good women, and I appreciate all of them. And on this bill, they provided bonding authority for $482 million for the project. That's a lot of money to put into a battery plant that's probably not gonna make it as a battery plant. You put those batteries into an electric truck, and then when that transmission torque hits them, they're gonna suck them dry, and they're gonna be sitting on the side of the road. If they're out in the cold weather, they're not gonna go anywhere, so I don't think those will go over. They'll probably have to do like they did in Tennessee, and with the Ford company, they had to reroute, they had to back up and start manufacturing the combustion engines instead of the electric, because the electric cars, as you see on Fox News and everywhere else, they're not going over too well. So that's one of my first bills that I want to talk about, because, and I'm not trying to be negative, but I think that the people in the state of Mississippi need to know all of the bills, the good bills and the bad bills. And I have said for 5 years I would love to set up at some of the women's Republican meetings and maybe project on the wall to show you how to go to the Mississippi Legislature website, and you can keep up with everything we do. You can go to every bill, you can see how it's voted on, who votes what, if it's been to the House and then to the Senate and back to the House, if it goes back into conference or in conference at the end of the session. And I think that's important, that everybody should know that in the state of Mississippi to keep up with it. Okay, so the second bill I want to talk about is let me back up 1 second. Well, the second bill that I want to talk about is the Amazon data center that's going into Jackson. It's actually 2 facilities. You got the Amazon facility, and then you've got the AI facility. There's a lot of money spent on that. $44 million appropriated by passage of House Bill number 2 was made available to Mississippi Development Authority. The Senate Bill 2001 approved incentives for $260 million, of which $217 million would be paid back by Madison County, but guess what? That's taxpayer money too. So the $44 million will cover $32 million in training grants provided for the benefit of the company, which breaks down as $16 million for customizable training, recruitment, relocation, and other qualifying expenses, with a 50-50 match for the company, $10 million for institutions of higher learning, training for engineers, artificial intelligence, and I want to stop right there on artificial intelligence. I don't know how y'all feel about it, but I think if you go back and read the Bible, it doesn't say artificial intelligence, but read Revelations. And when they started talking about AI, I said, I'm done. I'm against this bill. But again, I was also against it because it is nothing but corporate welfare. And the data center, the data hub that they're going to use part of this money for, Amazon does 70% of their business with China. Why should we give them, and I know that money down the road will be made, hopefully. We may never see it in our lifetime, but I think that if you take this kind of money and the kind of money you have on the battery plant and maybe invest in some of our homegrown Mississippi companies, I think that we would be better off, or that's just my thought. We need to take care of our own companies first. And I have a breakdown here of how all of that money's spent. If anybody wants to see it, be glad for you to look at it. I don't want to take my whole 10 minutes giving you these figures. I give you the top figure. Okay, House Bill 903, the machine gun, provide crime for conversion. There is, the government's trying to take our guns away from us anyway. On the machine gun conversion, this is a mechanism, and I don't know much about guns. I know how to shoot one. I know how to protect myself with one. But when it comes to like parts to put on them, I don't have a clue. But I know there's a device that's being made, and I'm probably in China, I don't know. But it's illegal to manufacture, possess, and use or sell that device in Mississippi now. This is my thoughts. And this device, when you put it on a handgun, that handgun becomes fully automatic. And I understand that a lot of, most everybody on the floor voted yes to make it illegal. I voted no, not to make it illegal. And Senator Hill voted no to not make it illegal, because this is my thoughts. First of all, it's one more step for the government coming after our guns. Second of all, the biggest thing to me, you can take these guns away from your law-abiding citizens all day long, but guess who still has them? Your criminals, your thugs. And I guess being sarcastically, at one point in time, if we live long enough, people are going to be hungry, and those thugs with these guns are going to come to your door. They're not going to knock on your door, they're going to knock it down. And when they do, I pray that Biden at least allows me to keep a knife, and here I brought a knife to a gunfight, so how well off am I? Not too good. I do not want to uneven the playing field, and that's my reason, because I've been asked, why did you vote no on that bill? So that's my reason for voting no on that bill. Medicaid expansion, well, let me do this one first. Medicaid provide presumptive eligibility for pregnant women. This is another bill. To me, this is Medicaid expansion. If a woman goes in, she's pregnant, they're going to presume that she qualifies for Medicaid. Well, 3 months later, if she doesn't qualify for Medicaid, who's going to pay it back? Who's going to pay the money we paid up front? You're not going to get it back. It's going to be gone. So we're expanding Medicaid with this bill. It's just my opinion. So I voted no on this bill. Now, last year, as everybody knows, there was a bill that went through postpartum, and once the baby is born, the mother and the baby are taken care of for a year. My next bill, the SAFER Act, we have a positive. I voted yes on this bill, imagine that. But this is the SAFER Act bill, that the boys stay in the boys' restrooms, the girls stay in the girls' restrooms, and that's the way it should be. It should have been that way from the beginning. The squatted vehicles, he's already touched on those, and they measure from the center of the tire to the bottom of the bumper, and it is dangerous to have it going down the road like this because you can't see what's in front of you. There's no way. So that's a good bill. I really liked it. Law enforcement officers, this ties in with the dinner that you're going to be doing soon. We did give a raise to the ones that are killed in duty, law enforcement officers and firefighters or emergency firefighters. The raise was actually up to $250,000 if they're killed in the line of duty, a law enforcement or firefighter. And the first $150,000 goes to the spouse. 15 of that, before they get the 150, 15 of that can go immediately directly to the funeral home to help cover funeral expenses. Now, after the 150,000, which you take out the 15, so you got 135. Then there's $25,000 per child of covered individual, not to exceed a total payment of the 150 or the 135, the 15, and 25 per child, not to exceed $250,000 under this new law. 1 minute, okay. All right, I got that. Well, that's all I know. So my timing was fairly decent. Again, if anybody has any questions on any of these bills, I'll be glad to answer them, or any other bills when we get through. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Ms. Kathy. Next, we welcome Senator Neil Whaley. Please welcome.
Thank you. It's good to see each and every one of you here tonight. It's an honor to be here with you all. I'll tell you, this is one of the groups that I do enjoy getting to come to, and believe it or not, there are groups that we don't enjoy going to see. But this is one that I do look forward to getting to come to, and not so much because I have to, because I want to, and I've been doing that for several years, even before I needed to come. So, my name is Neil Whaley, and I'm the State Senator, District 10. This was my first session actually representing the U portion of the district that I received after redistricting. Just like was spoken earlier, start of a new term, so the beginning of that starts with the committee schedules and lists, and I had a very, very busy committee list. You heard the representatives talk about theirs, so I'll tell you a little bit about mine. I'm the chairman of the Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks Committee. This is my second sentence to that committee, and I did say a sentence. But I'm also the vice chairman of the Local and Private Committee, which is actually the only constitutional committee set up under our state constitution. I'm also a member of the Agriculture Committee, which is very near and dear to my heart. Probably my favorite thing in the world is agricultural life. Also on the Business and Financial Institutions Committee, that's a very, very important one. And the Ethics Committee, we don't meet very much, and I don't understand that, but that's another story. I'm on the Finance Committee, and that deals with a lot of your tax policy in the state. Very, very busy committee, probably the busiest committee that I serve on, and I am honored to be on that one. Highways and Transportation, that's one that very, very, very important, as Representative Massengill laid out, your roads and bridges and how all the mechanisms come together to build that funding to serve our needs in a growing need. That's one thing. Mississippi is growing, and that's a good thing. But one of the growing pains from that is figuring out how to maintain and how to build new roads and bridges. So that's a very, very important committee. I'm also on the Insurance Committee. Very, very important, but one that I don't like very much because I don't like a lot of the things that come through that committee. And probably one of the neatest committees that I'm on, I serve on the Rules Committee. And what makes that committee different, it's not appointed by the Lieutenant Governor, you're appointed by your peers. Each congressional district breaks up the first day of session. We have 13 senators in the first congressional district. Those senators will nominate one senator, or however many senators, they will take floor nominations and decide who they want to be and who they want to serve on that Rules Committee. I was one of two nominated, and I was elected to the Rules Committee, and that's a very, very important committee. You see a lot of things that come through firsthand, a lot of things that are good, a lot of things that are bad. I voted yes a lot, and voted no a lot, so that's another thing. A few of the bills, and being a W and being the last one that always goes, it seems like everybody always talks about what I want to talk about. Thank you, guys and girls. But I will tell you a little bit about one that's very, very important to me and that I've worked on for the last 2 years, and that's the foreign ownership of land, agricultural land bill in the state of Mississippi. That was one of the most important ones, and we received a lot of pushback on this, or excuse me, not a lot of pushback, but a lot of scuttle on it. People saying, why have you not already done this? Well, this is a deal that Mississippi actually started first, and several states jumped out and beat us on. They got to the punch a little quicker. And what they found is that the bill wasn't that great, and they had to go back and change a lot of things. Well, Mississippi took their time. We had hearings on this all through last summer, which was kind of a hard thing to do in the middle of a campaign year, but we did it. And we came about with one of the strongest foreign ownership bills that National Farm Bureau is actually looking at, and they're wanting to implement that as kind of a pilot for every state across the nation to use. So very, very proud of that. Senator McConnell was the lead author on that, and I was a co-author on that, had a little bit to say about it. So I was very, very, very proud of that one. Senate Bill 20.
Tell us about Bill.
About the foreign ownership bill? Sure. It just says that no adversarial country can own more than 40%, can be more than a 40% shareholder in any agricultural land in the state of Mississippi. And the reason why it's capped at that 40% is you have constitutional measures, and that's kind of the issue. I'd like to take it to none, but what we've seen, a lot of our seed companies are owned in conjunction with other countries. And if you took it any further than that, you would create a food shortage in the state of Mississippi. You would not have the access to the chemicals and to the seed that we have to produce our agricultural products, as this is the number one industry in the state of Mississippi. That's agriculture. So that's kind of the background on that bill. So like I said, very, very, very proud of that one. And that is one that will have to be tweaked as it goes along. All of the good bills have to be continued to work on. And that's what a lot of the work that I do in Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks Committee, a lot of that is not new language. It's existing language that you have to work on as you go forward. If you have a lot of changes in the wildlife policy, a lot of times you have problems. Yes, ma'am?
Will that be taken away of the land that is on here by non-allied countries? Would that land be taken away from them and they have a certain length of time to dispose of it to whom?
Absolutely. They have to dispose of it, and it would have to be somebody who is allowed to actually own the land.
I mean, another country or you know, a state of this, somebody.
Well, we would hope it would be somebody, a national.
Well,
we would
that's
hope.
what I'm asking. Like,
Yes,
I know
ma'am.
you farm, right?
That's one of the things I do. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Define
Hey, let me say this.
adversarial.
I'd rather answer your questions anyway. I'm not so much on talking. I'd rather answer questions.
Yeah, just a
Y'all get
little more on
accurate.
adversarial. What's the definition there?
So when you have a list of countries, when you talk about adversarial, and of course that would be.
There is a list?
That would be, yes, ma'am, there is a list, and that would be Iran, North Korea, China, Russia, list. And I'd have to get you that list. Those are just a few that I know. I believe there's around 7 or 8 countries on that list. So that's kind of a short version. Those are the big ones that we all know.
That's a well-defined term, that's what I'm getting at.
Yes, ma'am. There is a defined term with that. Definition is very, very important to me.
Amen.
And you'll see me get kind of bogged down in the details on a lot of things over the definitions, where a lot of people will just go on and not worry about it, but a little word like extent will drive them crazy. So that's one thing. I appreciate y'all being so interested in the foreign land deal. I didn't think y'all would be. I'm sorry, I'll talk louder. Another one that we've worked on for a few years, and we took care of a lot of this with the Fairness Act, and we felt like it was taken care of, but a lot of people did not think it was. So if they had problems with it, I sure did too. So the Safer Act is one that we wanted to go back and tweak a little bit and put a little bit more teeth into it. And that's the one that Senator Chism referred to, keeping boys out of girls' bathrooms, so forth, boys in boys sports, girls in girls sports, protecting our daughters, our mothers, our wives. It's very, very important. Father of the daughter here. And I definitely don't want to give an attorney any more reason to take any more of my money. So very, very, very glad that we got that deal taken care of as well. Senator Chism talked about the first responder trust fund deal. That was a priority of ours going in. The blackout tag has been very, very instrumental in that. Putting $38 towards that trust fund with every purchase of the tag. That's been a great way to fund an issue that needed to be taken care of without taking state funds from anywhere else.
And there's over 7 million in that account now, 7 or 8 million. So.
Right, that account is growing, and we hope it grows, and we hope it doesn't have to be used, but unfortunately, we all know that will have to happen. Like I said, everybody's talked about all the good bills. One thing, first responders have always been very near and dear to my heart. One thing that we realize, and a lot of people don't understand this, but your volunteer fire departments are of the utmost importance to small rural communities, and a lot of people don't understand this. But the fire ratings obtained through your fire departments have a direct impact on your house insurance. So taking care of those Taking care of those fire ratings is very, very important to me. This year, we were able to secure funding for 3 of the fire departments in Union County, 3 of the volunteer fire departments. So we'll work to try to secure more funding for that, investing in those fire departments, which is an investment in you, all as taxpayers. So we were very happy to get that. And with that, I will sit down and look forward to taking questions. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Now, at this time, we're going to let you ask questions. So if you have a question, raise your hand. I'll give you the mic, and we'll address whoever wants to speak. Yes, ma'am. So here you go. You'll take
I
this.
need a mic.
Speak loudly, please.
Can someone define humanitarian parole? Do y'all know what that is? And
Humanitarian parole.
and what it's used for? And nobody?
New on the man.
Well, I have someone that they do our loans for our Leo, and this young gentleman shows this phone to me, and it's like I thought I've seen from other ones that have come through the country or come through the border. That's where he had come through. And he did not speak English, but he let me know he was here on humanitarian parole. Anybody know anything about that?
I'll try.
Thank you, because I looked it up. I mean,
Well, I'm doing just like you. I'm looking it up. Right now, what I see is that is a federal program, not one that's administered through the state. So what I would do is I would reach out to my federal delegation, either Trent Kelly's office or Roger Wicker, Cindy Hyde-Smith's. That would be.
He's working for a loan service and all. It's 2 or 3 of them. I mean, they come through, and he said he's on humanitarian parole. You can look it up, and he's working for a loan service. And
I'm looking
and
it up.
Yeah.
And I've
So,
never.
I mean, where are these people coming from? He told me to the border, Venezuela, you know.
Good question. I had no idea. Never heard about it. But you're giving me something to look into. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir.
Before last year, I asked 2 representatives here a question. As Senator Whaley over here and Representative Massengill, if either of them would vote for Medicaid expansion if it came up. Senator Whaley, to his credit, did not. Senator Massengill over here did. I just wanted to ask you why you decided to do it. Now, I've heard some people say, oh, the government's going to be 90% of it. If you think that's going to last, I think you're deluded. They're going to throw it all back to the states eventually.
Yes, sir. Well, the program we had did have it for 4 years, a pilot program. A pilot program for 4 years, everything would be paid for. So that was the route we were going. Of course, it didn't.
What?
A pilot program.
But that was Medicaid expansion.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That was not the program.
Well, I said I wouldn't, but once it was going to be paid for, plus we were going to have $700 extra million that was coming to our state, then I decided we would go that route. But, I mean, it didn't pass, so things happened.
I know it didn't pass, but you did vote for it.
I did vote for it. I'm not going to say I didn't. Yes, sir. But that was the plan. We're going to have a pilot program, see how it went for 4 years. 4 years, it'd come back up. If it wasn't going like we had hoped, then it went away. Yes, sir.
Anyone else?
Can I say something to the
Yes, ma'am.
Medicaid expansion? And I understand that maybe the pilot program might go away, but I just addressed Pontotoc Monday night because of these programs that have repealers put in them. And that's what would have been put in that Medicaid expansion. When the 4 years comes up, it seems like everything just comes right through the legislature and they want to extend the repealer. So here we go. Every 4 years is going to be extended, whether it needs to be or not. Maybe I'm not talking into the mic, but every 4 years, that repealer is going to get extended. So that's just my thoughts on the pilot program. Of course, I got a lot of thoughts on Medicaid expansion. I don't agree with it at all. Medicaid expansion is not for your elderly if it had passed. It's not for your young children that need it. It's for that middle-aged group that's too lazy to work. Let's just put it where the rubber meets the road. That's my opinion. And so for every 4 years, that repealer would be extended for the people that don't want to work. Thank you.
Now, the pilot did actually have a work requirement for the working poor, under 21,000, then that was it. So it did have that in it. So I know people shake their head and they don't agree, but, you know, some people are poor, you know, whether you like it or not, they are, and they need health care. So,
Can I ask about that work requirement?
yes, sir.
I thought that you either had to accept it as it is or not. You're saying you're going to require them to vote, how you going to be able to do that?
The work requirement? Well, it was going to be mandatory that they have a job, 30 hours a week, I think it was.
I think what he's saying is, how are you going to enforce that?
How are you going to enforce it? I'm sure it was in the bill, but I don't recall off the hand how it was.
Yeah, where they got their insurance, so they had to report it.
It went through the insurance where it reported, yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, question for Ms. Chism. She mentioned that there's a website where you can look up and see how people vote on things. Can you give us a quick?
That website is legislature, T-U-R-E, not T-O-R, legislature.ms.gov. And once you go to that website, you can just play around with it until you figure out every place that you can go on there. It'll give you bills for years and years past. It'll tell you if they passed or they failed, who voted what. You can find the bills that are currently, even your special sessions, or you can find bills that are currently being voted on. And it'll also, if you just really look and explore it, it'll also tell you as passed by the governor, or it'll give you all of the amendments. If the amendment passed, it'll say, out to the right, it'll say the vote. Click on vote, it'll tell you exactly who voted what. Unless it was a voice vote. So it's an interesting website, and it's very, very informative. It is.
One more time, please.
Also, the Mississippi State Legislature has a site, and you can pull up every bill on there too, and see everything.
Legislature, legislature.ms.gov.
Yes,
I
sir.
have another for Senator Whaley on the foreign lands bill. How many degrees of separation does that look into? Are countries actually putting their country name on a deed, or are there shell companies involved? And if so, how many degrees of separation does that look into these adversarial countries being on the cap table of a shell company or, two companies down the line?
Absolutely, great question. When all of this is going on, there has to be extensive Secretary of State. Every time they own and purchase that land or start that business, LLC, they go to the Secretary of State and they have to register. And if they're not registered, if they're not complying, or if they're not disclosing, they're in violation of state law anyway. So if you have any record or if you have any knowledge of somebody who is not doing that, I would suggest you get that information to the Secretary of State, and that would help. But there's going to be a great deal of looking into this, and that's one reason why this program runs through the Secretary of State's office. He is known as the land commissioner of the state, so it's very important to have that program with him as the overseer. But that very, very important, big part of it, and I appreciate that question. I hope I answered.
Ms. Laura?
I'd just like to ask why you guys voted for the battery plant and Amazon. You help us understand why you voted for it?
Well, economic development is a big part, at least on the outside anyway. We're for economic development, and the way it was presented, Mississippi was guaranteed to get that money back. And I don't remember the exact, it was within 10 years,
Yeah.
but it was a guarantee, and if that did not happen, they would have to pay it back, those companies.
It's
I
$1
think we
billion.
had a few of those in the past that went belly up and we never got a dime.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering how we're gonna guarantee that these
But-
people are gonna pay us back if they go belly up. That's what a lot of them do.
Well,
They
that
take the
was,
money and run.
yeah.
This has 3 of the largest companies in the world backing it.
Great question. I'm glad you asked that. And I had a feeling somebody was going to ask that because there's been a great, no, not you, but I know there's been a great deal of misinformation put out about this, and I want to clear some of this up. Economic development is one of the biggest issues in our state. We're putting more money through education, through career technical education, building a workforce. And one thing, and you know, I haven't touched on the Medicaid deal, but we talked about the working poor. I don't want to have to even talk about it. I don't want to have to deal with it because I want people to have good jobs. And I don't want to put our people at a disadvantage. One thing about this program, you're talking about 2,000 jobs in a very rural area. Now, that is just what has been agreed to. That number is going to exceed that. When you talk about economic development, it's going to be bigger. You're going to have companies that come in beside of it to supply. They're going to employ people. That number is going to grow and it's going to be bigger. The largest payroll commitment in the state's history. It's a pretty big deal. So when you talk about, and you know, you say, well, we've had deals that have gone belly up, and how do we take care of that? Well, you learn from your mistakes, in which I wasn't there for those mistakes. I want to make that clear. So you're talking about Kimber, you're talking about the beef plant. You know, I'm with you, 100% with you. And I'm going to tell you all this. My name was on that deal. And I'm not running away from that. I'm not ashamed of it. I disagree with Senator Chism. I love her to death, but I disagree with her. This is a good deal. How do we know that this is going to be taken care of? The 3 companies that are backing this in the agreements, well, one part of it, they're already in the state. They're already doing business in the state. They have a track record. They're not going away. Cummins market cap is $38.9 billion. Packard, $55 billion. Daimler, $79 billion. Now, the name Cummins, to some people that don't know that, that's an engine manufacturer. Packard, they're an engine manufacturer, but they're also a truck manufacturer. They build Peterbilt and Kenworth trucks. Okay? Daimler, that's Volvo, that's Freightliner, a lot of the smaller trucks. Now, here's the deal, and I said in a lot of conversations, this is something that I've worked on for several years, as a matter of fact. The governor and I work very, very closely on this, as well as TVA, as well as our Marshall County Industrial Development Authority. This is a very, very big program, and we told several companies, no, we're not interested because they weren't good deals. We weren't interested in them. One of them went to South Carolina, and I'll tell you, that was a very, very big one. But the deal wasn't good. So we walked away from it. This is a good deal. The deal is going to be 10 years out, okay? They're working on this. They're going to be building this program out. Talked about the batteries. They said that there was a problem with the technology, and that needed to be upgraded. That needed to work on. They know that they're a few years out on this, okay? And, you know, here's the deal. Even if the batteries don't pan out, they'll move somewhere else. They'll move to another direction within the plan. So as long as they have the 2,000 jobs or the $60,000 pay scale, I don't care if they build broom handles. I just want the jobs. I want commitment. I want the revenues. I want people to have things to fall back on, places to go to work. That way we can keep our kids in the state of Mississippi.
Neil, what is the skill level? What is the skill level of these workers? What is the expectation? Are these high school people? Are these GED people? Are these college?
There's going to be some of all of it. There's going to be some of the smartest of the smartest, and then there's going to be some of the toughest of the toughest workers. It's going to be a pretty tough job, but you're going to have minimum payroll of $60,000. I mean, that's, you know, we're going to fill these jobs, and a lot of that is putting the money into the education, and that's where a part of this fund is. You know, you hear people talk about the $2 billion. We're not giving the company $2 billion. The company is investing $2 billion in the state. There's a big difference. A lot of people get that number mixed up. So you're gonna have through Northwest Community College, in which the community colleges have been great with career and technical education. The local high schools are gonna be a part of this, and we see part of this, if you look at the model with Toyota and what they're doing here in Albany with the career and technical. A lot of these kids go through that program, they go through that internship, they go and get a job at Toyota. They go to ICC, and get a job at Toyota. I know several children that have done this and have jobs better than anything I've ever had. I think this is a good idea. It's one that we have looked at all of the good things from other companies. We've looked at the bad from other companies, made sure that those problems were taken out, and taking care of the ones that were good. Yes, sir.
Over the last 10 years, New Albany has done a great job on Bankhead Street, all the boutiques and all the shops down through there. What kind of incentives did they get?
So right now, what you have over the last few years, you've had the income tax reduction, which is not where it needs to be. We need to go further with that. We need to work on our inventory tax. That's something that I've been working on for the last few years. Now, a lot of the times when you talk about these tax policies, remember, I'm one of 52. And on a tax policy, you gotta have 3/5 after you get it out of committee. On the House, you gotta have the same thing. So, it's very, very difficult. That's one of the good things about the legislature. It's difficult to get things passed.
Small businesses are the backbone of our communities.
Absolutely,
ought to
they
be
are.
standing
And I'm
ahead
a
of the
product
line.
of that, sir. I'm a product of that.
Yeah. Creekmore, the landscape business, I mean, those small businesses ought to have the same type of incentives because they employ people. Now, they don't have the name of Amazon, but they're important in our community.
Absolutely, they are. And I come from a small town community, and I own and operate a small town business. I get it. I know what
But
you're
you don't get
saying.
incentives from adding two
I don't
new
get all
jobs,
the
do you?
incentives. No, I don't. And when I work on that, I'm working trying to get everybody that incentive. But sometimes I don't. Are you asking me should I walk away from a good deal because I can't get every deal that I want? Is that what you're asking?
I'm saying a company like Amazon, who puts a lot of these businesses out of business on Main Street, are getting preferential deals when people who have been here in our community for years don't get preferential treatment. Matter of fact, the tax base is being contributed to Amazon to bring them in, and to other big businesses. It's just a slap in the face for the local businessman who opens a business and employs 10 people. They don't get anything.
They don't get near as much as they should. I agree with you. I agree with you 100% on that. I wish we could do more. I'm one person working on that part.
And Amazon's getting 30 years tax relief.
Tax-free?
Tax-free.
30
Not
30
tax-
years.
not
I would
tax-
love to have
tax
that deal.
abatements.
I would love to have that kind of deal.
Abatements.
Okay.
They're
So-
paying a lesser rate.
Yeah, less rate.
Can I ask a question about that? I don't know. I think it's always a good thing to try to get your industry in Mississippi. God knows it needs it. But there were 2,000 jobs you're talking about. How much money was spent to get them to come here? And how much per job is that?
How much money paid for by the state?
Yeah, other people, it's Mississippi.
Sir, I have no idea.
I've got it right here if you want to read it off.
I got a
44 million
calculator. What's the-
appropriated by House Bill number 2. Approved incentives of 260 million, bond of which 217 million will be repaid by Madison County, which is still your taxpayers' dollars. The 44 million, it tells here everything that it covers, that 44 million. Then we have 15.79 million for roads, 14.75 million for water system, 171.5 million for sewer system, 13 million for new fire trucks, having 16 total sites that generate an estimated 41.3 million in the state tax revenue during the 5-year construction phase. And another thing, on the Amazon, like it's I don't remember what they call it, but it's like a construction tax, MAE or something like that, and you have to pay 3% on that construction tax. Well, they're going to pay it to Mississippi, but then every quarter, they're gonna request part of it back, and they will get 97% of that 3% back. So that's another tax incentive. We're just going around a mulberry bush to give it to them, so they're getting it back. It's incredible at the tax incentives that they're getting.
There's one other thing about if you bring 2,000 jobs in, make it $60, they'll have a lot of money to spend at your local businesses that wouldn't turn money down. A lot of those people will be moving in here, they won't be, there'll be money we're bringing from somewhere else to be spent over the year.
One of my concerns about the battery plant, because of the location they put it, because you're so close to Tennessee and in Marshall County, you're not going to find as many workers in Marshall County. So are all of those jobs that we're paying the incentives and bonuses and everything for, are they going to go to Tennessee?
Yep.
Or are they going to stay in Mississippi? They're like 2 miles from Tennessee, so that's one of my concerns.
Well, I guess if you're gonna have that concern, then you would also have to go down to the Gulf Coast, Ingalls Shipbuilding, and tell them that we don't want you because you could possibly come from Mobile, Alabama to come to work over here, and then our nation would, the state would lose all of the shipbuilding.
Is the shipbuilding within like 2 miles of
Look,
Mobile?
this is a state, we're not another country.
That's right.
And, we have interstate commerce, and I think that's very, very important. If you look at the state and you talk about our agricultural enterprises, if we start going in that business route of what you're implying, we could lose our business routes with our grain and our cattle, and then we would be at a disadvantage in that side as well. So, it's a catch-22, and I'm sorry, I just disagree with your argument.
Well, to me, it would have been a better location because we also have 55, we have I-20, we have I-22 here, we have other interstates that it could have been put a little bit further south or central into Mississippi because we're putting that much money into
So
the
you're
plan.
fine with it going somewhere else, but not a border county? That's what you're saying?
I have rather, if I'm going to put that kind of money into it, I would be more comfortable with it being further in-state because, like I said, we're the local net. You're like, what, 3 miles or so from the line? And I feel like you're going to have a lot of people to come out of Tennessee to work at this plant. That's
How
just my
many
thoughts.
people have driven every day from Union County, Benton County, Marshall County, have driven to Tennessee to find a job because they could not find a job anywhere that could provide? And if you're going to go with that argument, and I'm sorry, but it is absolutely absurd that you want to deny people an opportunity at a good job because you want it closer or away from a boundary. I mean, if it was right here in New Albany, would you be fine with it?
I would be more satisfied with it here in New Albany than up on
I think that's the issue. You don't like where it is as opposed to what the project.
No. My issue is I don't like that we put all of this money into it when I say that we could have been putting this money into our homegrown Mississippi.
And I'm fine with that, but drop it.
Because it won't come out of committee.
Well, that is a terrible excuse to go and say that it will not come out of committee. And all that is that is an excuse to not have to go and do the work. I go every day and I work my butt off down there. And there's a lot of bills that don't get out. And that's fine. But I don't go back and say and blame it on other people because they don't go and do the work.
That's not what she did. That's not what she did. We're ding the bell. Okay, any other questions? Oh, yes, Ms. Marshall.
Sam, first of all, I want to say thank you for I teach at the Law Enforcement Academy. And I want to tell you, and I'm in mental health, and I want to let you know how much I appreciate the law that was passed last year requiring that law enforcement officers go through the crisis intervention team training. And for those of you who don't know, there was a law that was passed last year. Sam, you will tell them?
Yeah, that was 1222.
Yeah, go ahead. But then I have another question.
Okay. But I just got an update today from Wendy Bailey on 1222, which is very encouraging. And 1222 requires every police officer, which are so many times the first ones on the scene when a mental health case comes up, And prior to last year, there was optional training. And we're talking about, it's called Mental Health First Aid, and it's a one-day course. And so one of what 1222 did was require every law enforcement officer to be trained in mental health training. And I think it was a 4-year span in the state of Mississippi. And then the CIT trained officer, which some had, it requires every law enforcement agency to have at least one CIT trained officer, and that's a week-long course. And they obviously handle more criticals, but as of today, 46 of the 82 counties have at least one CIT trained officer. 234 officers have been trained in mental health first aid. And we have 16 CIT classes going and 90 first aid classes going. So we're well on our way to meeting that goal of what 1222 did.
So I just want to follow up with that and say that I appreciate you're doing that with law enforcement, but I wish you would consider that for firefighters and paramedics. And here's why. Working with law enforcement as much as I do, and I work a lot with older adult families, when you're in a crisis situation, they will let a firefighter or a paramedic in their home, sometimes very quickly, where they won't let a police officer in. They have a lot more concern about a law enforcement officer than they will about a paramedic, an EMT, or a firefighter. So I'd like to ask you to please consider mental health training for those first responders as well, because they are very often, law enforcement are relying on the paramedics and the EMTs to assist them with these situations, and they're not adequately trained in mental health.
I will assure you, and we've discussed that in the scope, and the reason 1222 came about is because, and y'all have all heard the news about mental health people ending up in jail. And we've just had many long discussions about it. So it started with the law enforcement.
Right.
We have looked at it, and even counseling for law enforcement and our first responders, because the trauma that they go through,
Yes.
just peace of mind for them. I promise you. And I meet with, tomorrow, I'm meeting with Wendy Bailey again, so we'll start.
There's one bill that, there have been several versions of this bill that have been brought up for the last 2 to 3 years, and Senator Chism, you correct me if it's 2 or 3, is the no patient left alone. And it has been brought up numerous times, and it gets killed in committee every single time, and I don't understand why, because all of the states around us have this bill. And for those of you who don't know, since I work with older adults, what the no patient left alone started in Florida. Rick DeSantis passed this first bill, and essentially what it says is that every single person has the right to have an advocate with them.
A lot of this started during COVID, didn't it?
And it was, yes, it started as a result of COVID, with so many of our older adults and people dying alone. And so this law was passed to say that regardless of your age, not just older adults, but regardless of your age, if you're in a hospital, if you're in the institution, if you're in a nursing home, you have the right to have an advocate with you. That hospital, that nursing home cannot deny you to have someone with you. And I don't understand why that is such a controversial bill that we can't get that passed, Sam.
I don't understand either. I do not understand it, but I don't think it came to the House side of Public Health, or I just missed it, because I don't recall that one coming.
I don't know. I know it was introduced in both the House and the Senate, several versions, and it never made it out of committee. And I would love for you to say tonight that you would be willing to work with myself and some others to try to make this happen this next session, because it is so important. And this is not a controversial bill. I mean, this is not something it doesn't cost money. It's not, it doesn't require any funding. It's not difficult, but it's so important that every single person in the emergency room, in a nursing home, in a hospital, has the right to have someone with them.
Well, I hope you can tell from my presentation that I'm truly compassionate and really care about health care in Mississippi,
Okay.
mental health. And yes, I would be glad to, and I would even, that we would talk, offer the bill for it. So, and the mental health part too, we are looking at that.
While you're up there, I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
You talked about the rare diseases at UMC. Can you tell me, is there a special doctor that does that, or is it all subspecialties?
There will be a council put together by UMC and the Department of Health, and they will pick who's going to be on this council, and they will be submitting reports to the legislature. Yes, ma'am.
I'm retired, of course. I'm past the age limit in a lot of ways, but I have a hearing impairment. I haven't heard anything here tonight, but I do have special equipment. Am I not permitted to have someone with me when I go to the hospital, when I go to see my doctor, when I have questions? Am I misunderstanding the issues here, that I don't have a right to have someone with me?
I don't think that's right.
The question or the issue is that in some situations, there are, I had a situation last week with someone in the emergency room. There was an older adult who was in the emergency room, and they kept saying that the family could not be with them. And so, but most of this came about because of COVID, because of the policies that were put in place that refused, people were refused the opportunity to be with their family and with their loved one. And so Rick DeSantis started this in Florida, and it's gone all around, and we have it all around us. States all around us have this law. And as I said, it's been introduced several times, and I cannot get past why it's never making it out of committee. Because everyone has that right to have someone with them. I'm like you, I wear hearing aids, I'm hard of hearing, and to have someone with you. Sometimes you're allowed to do that and sometimes no. And this law would force these institutions, particularly hospitals, to allow you to have someone with you.
In 2021, my mother had COVID, and we couldn't go to the hospital to stay with her because of the COVID laws at that time. And she passed away, pretty much alone. Once they moved her into the nursing home, one wing of the nursing home, and she was already in a coma at that time. We got to go in and be with her there, but we couldn't stay with her in the hospital. So I introduced that bill in 22, 23, and 24, but it never makes it out of committee.
Who's holding that up?
Delbert Hoseman.
I thought so.
Neil,
Yes, ma'am.
who's chair of the ethics committee, Sam?
Yes, ma'am.
You-
Mike Seymour.
Creekmore,
Yes, ma'am.
Mike Seymour.
That gentleman, that humanitarian parole,
Yes, ma'am.
he got out on the he works for you.
Who is it?
I don't know what his name is, but he couldn't speak English. But
Okay.
he did show me the phone. He said, I said, what? Didn't know how to go off a patio, whatever, and I went out the back door, somebody was trying to help him. And he told me, he said, you have to speak into this certain phone. And he said, I'm humanitarian, on the humanitarian patrol. Parole.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but I know.
But he is he works with your crews.
Okay.
That kind of leads into the question that I have for you.
He does not have a, per se, working to get his citizenship or anything. I know you do have some of those that work their rear ends off, they are great employees that you have. And I'm not saying that this young man was aggressive or anything like that, I'm just was asking him, and he explained to me through the phone, which if you'll see these phones, I assume that they're the ones that they're getting, I don't know, maybe coming across the border, I have no idea. But I had one that approached me at the city hall with the same type of phone. He was humanitarian,
I have to.
humanitarian patrol. Yeah, permanent parole, I'm sorry. Anyway, maybe it's patrol with parole, but it's parole if you'll look it up.
If
But
he works for me,
he does, he was with your crew.
right, well, if he's getting a check from us, he has 2 points of identification. We're not required to check, to look up, see if they're legal, whatever. They look.
He said, I can only be, you have to talk into the phone, he cannot correspond.
Yeah.
You know, when I jerked the blower out of his hand, I said, man, don't blow him out, you know, you're gonna tear my bush up, okay, the shrub. You know, he said, he didn't understand. So one of your gentlemen came over there and explained to him what he was having to do, and they said, I'm new, and that's when he told me that, what he was here. But then he had to come through, as an ordinance.
Yeah, well, he had identification if he works here.
I wonder how they're getting their identifications. Any way they want to. I'm not accusing you,
No.
okay? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying he did work with your crew.
Yes, ma'am.
So this has nothing to do with you or what we're talking about as far as you personally right now. It has to do with everybody in this room has probably had someone come to work for them or say, I just have to be paid in cash. I mean, that happens all over the place. So if they have identification, I've had someone that I paid a lot of money to who refused to give me their social security number after that. So I know they have one and they're legal, but what type of identification is required to be sure that they are legal and are taxed on
Oh, me.
the incomes they have?
I don't know that answer. I don't
So
do
do you
that.
give W-2 forms to
We do
them?
I-9s. We fill out I-9 and then do the W-2. I'm not a tax person. I'm really terrible, but they do. We take taxes out of their check, and they do get the whatever tax document from the state.
Virginia, they have to be E-verified. It's good to be E-verified.
I understand when it's not come with an identification and you're paying them, you would need their social security number, I would think, if they have one.
That's right.
You have, this is for Senator Patty too. I'm sure you're aware of the famous Facebook post about you that's gone all over the state of Mississippi.
I am.
Can you speak to that and give us information?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I received a call.
Talk loud, Kathy.
Let me stand up here so everybody can hear me because I can talk really loud. I received a call on Saturday, a week before, last Saturday, May the 11th, telling me that there was 650 to 700 Guatemalans coming in to New Albany. And I'm like, what? So the person that was setting up that day got the dates mixed up, so they weren't coming in that day. They were coming in this past Saturday. Well, I start making phone calls trying to get this stopped because we watch the news. They're coming in from everywhere. They're coming across the border. They're shipping them to everywhere in the United States. And they were supposed to be coming to New Albany to get, I was told, marriage license, birth certificates.
This is so confused.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. So they were coming to New Albany. The United Methodist Church out at Glenfield was going to accommodate them. Marta, I don't know Marta personally, but there's a video on Facebook where she went to Memphis and she received her training, and she talks about it from the pulpit that they will come to the Guatemalan mobile consulate will come to New Albany, and they were going to set up. Well, then at that point, somebody from the church, I don't know who, somebody from the church had called out to the fairgrounds wanting to know if all the buses could park out there because they didn't have room to park them at the church. Well, then there's another concern for me. The taxpayer dollars were being used to accommodate these buses. The taxpayer dollars were being used for your Union County emergency system to set up to accommodate them. And I just didn't think that was right. A lot of people in Union County were extremely upset. Went to the supervisors meeting. We had 2 supervisors to vote no, absolutely no. That was Chad Coffey and Sam Taylor, and I thank them from the bottom of my heart that they voted no. I had made several calls. I wasn't getting any answers back. I finally got a hold of Darren Herring. He's from Tupelo, but he was in DC at the time, and he was in the office of Mr. Paul, and I don't know his last name.
Paul Holloway, he's
Holloway?
his chief of staff, Troop County's chief of staff.
His chief of staff. Howell.
Howell.
Paul Howell. Well, while I was on the phone with Mr. Daring, Mr. Howell in the background said, "Tell her you'll call back. We have the Guatemalan embassy on the phone." So they did call me back, and they told me that some of them were, they couldn't prove that all of them were legal. Some of them were legal. They were coming from all over Mississippi, different locations. But then on the Guatemalan website later, it indicated to me that they were being shipped in here from out of Mississippi, not from in Mississippi, because they said that the meeting had been called off. I suggested in the supervisors meeting, I said, I don't know who knows this Marta, but somebody that knows her, that can talk to her, that she will listen to and comprehend or maybe agree with them. They need to ask her to cancel this event this past weekend, take it back to Memphis if that's where they want to have it, have the people to go there. But we do not need it in Union County. The people of Union County do not want it here, so it needs to be canceled and taken back to Memphis, or ship them on up to the embassy, their Guatemalan embassy in Nashville. That's the closest one to New Albany, to Mississippi. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
I had one. I think one of the things they talked about was they were going to work out paperwork and try to give them passports. Well, you know, if they were wanting passports, they were putting the cart before the horse. They're supposed to have a passport before they get to this country, so that had to sneak across the border illegal. I go to Mexico every year, and I have a passport. I don't try to do that. And I think it's a bad thing to have a bunch of illegals coming in, doing things like you don't know what they're up to. And I never heard of a mobile consulate in my life. I know an embassy or a consulate is supposed to be there. The property of the government that has it. So it makes me wonder if these things are exempt from laws within this mobile passport that they're going to, I don't know, but I would like to know.
There's a lot of questions, and those are some good questions. I even asked, I said, why do we have mobile consulates? Why we have 25 embassies across the United States for the Guatemalans? Why do we have mobile consulates? Why do we keep accommodating them and taking everything to them? We need to accommodate our people that are right here in the United States, and nobody can deny the fact that they're coming across the border by the droves. When they come across the border, they're handed a cell phone, they're given a ticket, a bus ticket or an airline ticket, they're given money on like a credit card, Visa card, MasterCard, or EBT card or whatever, free cell phone, and then they're sent to wherever they tell us or tell them at the border they want to go. Once they reach that destination, like when they reach Memphis, then they're picked up supposedly by the bus loads or maybe even a car load. And then I don't know, but I'm just thinking that maybe the relocation of all of these illegals, or if they want to call them legals, whatever, I would think that whoever's doing all of this paperwork or whoever is holding this event, they're probably making money off of it. For every relocation that they make, they probably would make money off of it from the government. Yes, ma'am.
It appears that Northeast Mississippi is getting far more than our share of all these.
There's a reason for that. There's a big reason for that. And it's just my opinion now, but I think a lot of other people have the same opinion. North Mississippi and Northeast Mississippi, the elections didn't go exactly like they wanted them to last year. So if they can ship illegals in here and somehow, we had 3 illegals to walk into the Union County Courthouse last weekend, or week before last, and try to register to vote. So if they can somehow get them here, get them legal, then you have more voters right here in North Mississippi and Northeast Mississippi, and that can turn the elections the other way.
What do our representatives and senators know about the Office of Refugee Resettlement, ORR, and also the Welcome Corps or the Welcome Corps work, or non-governmental organizations that can actually invite mobile consulates in? And these are all new words to me too, but I was just wondering, are they just new words to me or to most of us?
I've never heard of them. I've never heard of them.
These are ways to expedite the resettlement of refugees through sponsorships, and the sponsors are all congregated under these non-governmental organizations, and there is money that goes along with it, either for their housing, their food, resettlement in general. But as I said, these are all new words and terms to me, but I'm wondering, why we don't know more about these things, if they're happening, and it looks almost to me like we nearly experienced part of the process. May not be, but that's, as you say, that's my opinion.
I found out that an NGO can be me, or you, or a church, or anybody that's not government affiliated, and there's quite a lot of money involved
And I think
for
the
the
NGOs
recipients that applies for that.
That's right. And I think the NGOs are usually, not always, but usually churches. And I understand that the churches, their hearts bleed for these people and want to help them. But you know what? My heart bleeds for my own people here in Mississippi.
Our security is kind of important.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Did they reach out to any local officials and notify them in advance? And if so, how far in advance?
They reached out, the Methodist Church at Glenfield reached out to our chief of police. He had known about it for 2 months. He apologized to our sheriff and to our supervisors, saying, I've been knowing about, and I was standing there, this is not hearsay, I was right there in the room, and he said, I've been knowing about this for over 2 months, and I just didn't feel like there was a need to make a call to the sheriff's department or the supervisors to let you know that all of these people were coming in to this church at Glenfield.
I have one last question. Why was the SAFER Act so hard to pass?
I think the lawyers.
What was the
a lot to do
question?
with that.
Why was the SAFER Act so hard to
Luckily,
pass?
none of us
SAFER
lawyers
Act
know.
for safety, so hard to get
I mean,
passed.
it was a big battle between the lawyers. as well as that.
It didn't pass at all last year, and we worked to get it passed. And then it didn't pass this year. We had to work and work and work to get it passed. To keep men and boys out of women's restrooms, to me, is a no-brainer. And when our people that we have sent to Jackson, and does anybody ever call anybody, any senator, legislator, ever call anybody and say, what do you think about this?
No, but they won't
Yeah.
return your call.
Yeah, but they don't respond.
They won't, Chief, we got some.
I promise you I will.
She does.
Yeah. Give me a call, I'll respond.
I will respond, sure.
If I don't have the response, the answer, I'll get it and I'll respond. It might take me 2 or 3 days, but I will respond, I promise you.
Senator Whaley responds, and he has 5 boxes here in Union County. Maybe you need to let people know where they are.
I do have 5 boxes in Union County, which is Macedonia, Bly, West Union, Pinedale, and Inglemoor. But for the other boxes in Union County, if you got a question, I'll still take the call. If you live in Pontotoc,
And Kathy
ma'am,
Can you
also
repeat
takes
those,
calls.
because those are new to all of us.
Macedonia, Bly, Pinedale, West Union, and Inglemoor.
5,
Yes, ma'am.
got it.
But like I said, I don't care where you are. If you've got a question, you can call me. I'll talk to you. I'll give my phone number out if you'd like it, for anybody that would. 662-316-3194. Call me, text me. If I don't answer you, I'll call you back. I'm probably busy. Don't email me unless you call me and tell me you email me, because I do not do good with email. I don't have time to sit in front of the computer all the time. So.
Thank you. I want to say thank you to Senator Chism for last week for what you did, because I know personally, I do know that you did not get any help from the governor's office, and that saddens me greatly, that our governor did not
respond.
And I want to
Like you should
thank,
have.
I want to thank the Republican women. I won't call any names. Anybody that wants to let us know that they helped. There were 4 Republican women that helped me, went to bat for us, for Union County. Union County spoke up, they spoke out, and they let it be known that we did not want this in Mississippi.
Well, I talked to Darren Herring this morning about something else, but he mentioned that he was so grateful that you called, because the crazy thing was, he was in Washington DC in Paul Howell's office.
And it all worked out, I mean, it was perfect
And Paul
timing.
Howell, a friend at the Guatemala News.
Kathy, you know, the list was this long of the conference calls that we did, all of us
I
did.
did.
And it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
This was, I didn't know about it, well, I don't know about it, well, we might need a couple police officers, but they don't really want protection. We want protection.
Yeah.
But you hung in there and got the right person.
We all did. I know there was a lot of calls made. We weren't getting any help from anywhere. But Darren, he said he would call me back because the embassy was calling them, and he called me back. He did exactly what he said he would do. And I thank all of y'all for supporting me and helping to fight that fight.
Any other questions for anyone? Yes, sir.
I wonder if there are any county records to go back and show how much money you all in Union County put up to get Hyper, Futorin for that, Hyper, Massengill, you name it. We put money up to get them all here. We built buildings for them. We did lots of things. And you just think what the job it would be without Futorin. Yeah, but the results of all that and Massengill.
And I agree with that. I think a little of it gets out of hand though, the millions and millions and millions of dollars. Just like the property for the battery plant, that's like $42,500,000 if I remember correctly, just on land, just property that was given to them.
Well, it took the value of the money back when we got a big door in here, we put up some money to build, not only to get the building, but to get the land and the building. It'll probably be up in the millions today.
I guess it's just me, but I just have a problem with corporate welfare. I do.
All that corporate welfare that we got from Massengill and all those.
No, but I'm like you. I would like to see the figures, what we spent then, what we spend now, and how many jobs will be provided out of this money, how many years it'll take to make the money back. What is the liability of them maybe turning belly up and us not getting any money? Because if they file bankruptcy, we're not going to get any of the money. We just spent millions of dollars. So there's pros and cons on all of these bills, on all of these incentives and things. There's always pros and cons.
Yes. Back to the Amazon plant and all the jobs, the Amazon jobs, how many human jobs are taken away because of the AI
A lot.
jobs?
A lot.
We don't pay the AI, I guess, but how many of those are not human jobs that are called jobs?
A lot. And one of my questions was, they say they're going to provide 1,000 jobs there at the data center. Are all of those jobs going to be provided for humans, or are they going to be provided for robots? That's the direction we're going. So who's to say that we're going to have 1,000 people making money there? I don't know. I can't answer that. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you for being here tonight. We're going, one more last